The all-female esports team of League of Legends, Vaevictis Esports. Why did they fail? Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on the internet we're going to talk about a very important subject. One that I think has gotten more relevant as time has gone on. There's been a lot of progressive agendas and wokeness in the mainstream, whether it's video games or even card games like Magic the Gathering. There's been a push for more inclusivity and including more people who aren't traditionally a part of the scene. So for example, League of Legends. The League of Legends esports, the Vaevictis, I'm not exactly sure how you say it, it's a Russian esports group. They made an all-female team of all-female players. Well, the whole operation is over. Here you can see on the loadout, all-female League of Legends team, Vaevictis, kicked out of the LCL. Now apparently this is the League of Legends, right? The division for League of Legends. And the team has been kicked out. Why? Because they kept losing. Here on Reddit you can see, averaging 27 deaths a game, the all-female team Vaevictis has been kicked from the LCL. Now, when this was announced, when the woke all-female team was announced, most people knew it would fail. Here you can see on Twitter, the Vaevictis Esports. We're proud to present you Vaevictis Esports roster for LCL Spring 2019. And it introduces their all-female team. We got Diana, Triggered is her name. You know, Mario, Violent Fairy, Triana, Ankcoat. Those are their nicknames. And this was met with a lot of fanfare. Even this tweet alone got like 1,000 likes. But there's people who knew this would end in disaster. Kestrel says, I want this to go well, but it won't. As some have mentioned, the right step theoretically is to sign up individually talented female players. But then there's a chance the one girl gets picked on by the guys, and if not that, then by the community. A no-win situation. So of course there's a lot of people who celebrated this team, who celebrated, oh, it's all female, this is the future, you go ladies. But they were terrible. They weren't picked because they were the most talented players. They were picked because they were female. And most people knew that it would just not work, because let's be honest, when you focus on identity politics over talent, when you go over affirmative action, that is to say, you're picking people because they have a specific characteristic, not because they're good at the game, not because they're good for the role, but because they have the right identity. In this case, they were all female. Now, this isn't true just in esports, and first of all, I don't believe esports are real sports. Fight me on this. I think that sports should be called sports, and that, like, the whole term esports, it's like pure cringe for me. Okay, I just gotta get that out there. I don't mind it existing. Like, I don't mind these tournaments, not at all. Just don't call it sports. It's not a sport. At any rate, I don't even like sports, okay? So don't even get the wrong idea there. So why did it fail? Well, it's simple. They sucked. The first all-female lineup to compete in the top division of League of Legends, Vaevictis, has been kicked from Russia's LOL, that's League of Legends, Continental League, LCL, after a series of poor results. Riot Games Russia released a statement which says the roster had an unacceptable level of competitiveness in a closed league, as Vaevictis failed to win a single game in in both the spring and summer splits last summer. The team had an average of 27 deaths per game, 10 more than the next highest in the league, and had the shortest average game duration in the LCL of 22 minutes and 11 seconds. Now I want to make it clear. The reason that they were banned, the reason that they lost, it wasn't because they were women or anything like that. It was simply because they were a team cobbled together with identity over talent. And whenever you go the identity politics route, you lose meritocracy. It's no longer the best people who get the job, it's the people who have the right identity, like I've said. And yet, those are the claims that everyone is making. They're saying, oh, they failed because they were being oppressed. So, I just want to make it clear. They were fired for being terrible at their jobs. They weren't fired for being women. They were fired because they were not good players. Now, are there good female players out there? Of course. Of course there are. Do they necessarily want to compete? Well, not necessarily. Maybe they play for fun. Maybe there are pros out there. Maybe they didn't make the team. Maybe the team just didn't have enough talent. These sorts of things always seem to happen because People put identity over talent. And you know the worst part of this? They're getting blamed for banning these people. Oh yeah, they are. Things have been very political surrounding this. I want to take a look at Reddit, and we're going to see some of people's responses. Now, first of all, this was posted in League of Legends, the subreddit for League of Legends, and it got 26,000 upvotes. They're up arrows, or whatever you call them. The thread was locked because Reddit is garbage. They regularly censor people. It's not really a place for free speech. Someone called Regan Drake says, "This thread has been locked because of the overwhelming amount of sexism." Now, I personally don't believe it. That that's a problem. And I'm going to show you just a few of these pictures because really, it's kind of nonsense, these claims. And there's certainly no reason to prevent people from having freedom of speech. So here's one that they cited as being like a bigoted statement, and it's literally just a fact. Here it says, "There are more men than women in the top of the IQ spectrum." Now, I don't know what this has to do with video games, but I am going to tell you that this is literally a fact. Oh yeah, it's a fact. It's literally a fact. Let me show you. So I want to show you this little chart, okay? This is IQ distributions for men and women. As you can see, women are kind of centralized. Most women possess average intelligence. In fact, at higher rates than men. And then men, on the other hand, are more outliner. Okay. So what do these lines really mean? Well, it's simple. Most women are of average intelligence, and the average woman is probably smarter than the average men, simply because most women are average. However, while that gives women the benefit of, on average, being just a little bit smarter, it means that there are less smart women and less dumb women. So it's sort of a pros and cons thing. On average, women tend to be smarter than men, but the smartest of them all is not as much women. So let's look at the blue line here. What it means is that, yes, the average man is probably not as smart as the average woman, but the smartest people tend to be men, and the dumbest people also tend to be men. Do you see how the pros and cons kind of come here? Women traded being smarter on average for being less dumb and also less smart, while men are some of the dumbest people, some of the, average but not as smart usually on average. But men have a lot of smart people compared to women. So this is literally a scientific fact. It's scientifically proven. It's been scientifically verified. And who's to say what's better or not? Now, I'm sure here's a misconception. Just because women have less high IQ people than men, that doesn't mean that high IQ women don't exist. They do. There's just less. That is true. But again, it has nothing to do with League of Legends. It's also, it's not bigotry, right? It's impossible. A scientific fact is not bigotry. It's impossible. It's science. It's a fact. It's the truth. You deal with it. Okay, so understand that statement is not any reason for censorship. And even if it was, even if it was just being mean or whatever, you still shouldn't censor free speech, which is why Reddit is trash. When you focus on identity politics, in this case, an all-female team, you're not going to be building the best team. You're simply picking up female players, whether they are good or not. If you focus on talent, you're probably not going to have an all-female team. It's just statistics. There's more men in esports than women. Therefore, most teams will be made primarily of men. I feel like a lot of brainlets out there don't understand proportions. I'm going to try to illustrate. Let's get out Paint. So here we are in Paint, and I am truly a master artist, so I'm sure you will enjoy this. But let's say that, so let's say we have a square, right? And it's part of a bigger square, right? Okay, so let's say this little square represents 10% of the population, okay? In this case, let's say the esport population. So esports, okay? So this 10% of the population is female. Have the little female sign? Female. And 90% of the esports population is male. So statistically speaking, if you were to make teams from this population proportionally, 10% of those teams would have a woman, and 90% of the teams would be men. So, for example, if there was a team of 10, 1 would be a woman, and 9 would be men. This would be perfectly proportional to the population, and makes sense. And you could probably pick the most talented one person, the one female, from the group of 10% of the population. Now, what this all-female team did is very different. They took that 10%, that little square, which probably has, it only has a minority of really talented players, and they made an all-female team. So instead of 1 woman, it's 10 women and 0 men. So even though 10% of the population of esports players is female, somehow you built an entire team out of that 10%. Now let me ask you a question. If you're just pulling people from a very small population, and not even on the basis of skill, but on the basis of their identity, do you think you're going to get the best players? Do you think your team is going to be superior to a proportional team that focuses on meritocracy? Probably not. And some of the comments look like, they look like joking, or just straight up trolling. So people discuss this, and to be honest, even for Reddit, people are kind of pointing out the obvious. Here one user asks, wait a minute, this is a thing? In reference to win rates? Calarian replies, it's not just losing every game, it's getting stomped every single game. So the games ended with kill scores around 25-2 within 20 minutes. Wow, they were getting obliterated. That's how you know that this team was cobbled together. And they didn't even pick the best of the best from like the small proportion of female esports player, because there are a lot less. Women aren't as interested in games most times. It's not because of bigotry. It's because women, generally speaking, they don't care. They'd rather be doing something else. How are you going to get mad at men? How are you going to get mad at gaming when gaming has traditionally been a male space, and not because it's exclusionary? Have you ever met your average gamer? They love women. They want as many women as possible in the scene. It slightly increases their chances of getting a girlfriend. Sorry, gamers, but you're still gonna be single. But, see, that's not the point. Women in general don't care. That's their choice. People have preferences. It has nothing to do with exclusion. Gaming is actually a very welcoming space. In fact, nobody in gaming cares about your identity. They just care if you're good. Get good. If you suck, you suck. Get better. Get skilled. So people are saying that the LCL's reputation is damaged. They should have never let them compete. They weren't very high ranked. League of Legends players have ranks. There's been a lot of controversy over this group, but finally, enough is enough. They just weren't good. That's just how it is. It has nothing to do with the fact they're women. It's the fact that they didn't pick talented women, which they should have if they were going to do this, assuming they even had enough to do this. They could have had a team that was like half female and overrepresented proportionally, but at least with the best females. Now we're going to leave off with this comment because I believe it basically sums everything up. Diz Zyre says, I think that these all-female teams are honestly the most sexist garbage I've seen in esport. If a girl or anyone is good enough to be competitive, they should be given a chance. But doing an all-female team just for the sake of it and forcing it goes against the point. And I gotta say, that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? What do you think about the fact that this all-female team has been canceled? And not because they're female, but because they were just average players. And if you're going to make a team of average players, of course it's not going to work out. But let me know what you think. As always, if you want to support the content, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar for as low as $1. Doing so will give you access to a private Discord server. You can currently donate through Bitcoin, other crypto, or DonorBox. Check out the link down below for my donation page. Sharing the video is also vastly appreciated, especially now. We're being censored, we're being silenced. Getting the word out is a great way to help. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.